So I know it's early, but what do I think is going to be Oscar nominated next year for Best Casting? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. It's time for extremely early Oscar predictions. Between now and July, I'm going to talk about some of the big categories coming up for 2026. What do I think is going to be nominated? What do I think is like a sure thing right now? What could maybe find its way in there if the film does turn out to be frickin' fantastic? This is very difficult right now because we haven't seen much and so many things can change between like now and August, September and things. Like once we get through Telluride and Toronto in early September, then the lay of the land gets a little bit clearer, I would say. But it is fun in these early months to kind of guess, and kind of see just based on stills, just based on certain credits on IMDb, like what might get into the Oscars, what might get into Best Casting, which is the new Oscars category this year. I just made a top 10 video a few days ago talking about if the Best Casting Oscar had existed in decades past, what do I think would have won? And now we actually get to predict what might win, what might be nominated because Best Casting is here. And I don't know about you, I am very excited about this category. I'm curious to see like how the Academy is going to deal with it. Like, are they only going to nominate giant ensemble casts? I hope that's not the case. Are they only going to nominate films that get into Best Picture? Like, could we get a movie that, like, maybe it's not up for picture and director, but it gets in for casting? That would be really awesome. I don't know. All we can really look to right now, I guess, is BAFTA, which introduced Best Casting in 2019. The winners in Best Casting at BAFTA so far have been Joker, Something Called Rocks from 2020, West Side Story, Elvis, The Holdovers, and Anora. So those are good choices. They're not all like giant ensemble casts. They could have gone with Everything Everywhere All at Once for 2022. That would have made sense. But they went with Elvis, and that has a few people in it. But it's really kind of a two-hander in that film between Austin Butler and Tom Hanks in a way. So for that to win casting over Everything Everywhere, that's kind of interesting. West Side Story winning Best Casting at BAFTA, that makes sense, obviously. I mean, just so many great performances in that movie. And then Anora being the most recent win. Like I've made jokes before, like if Best Casting had been introduced at the Oscars this year and not next year, then Sean Baker would have won 5. He would have won 5 Oscars because I guess like he was like the casting director for Anora. Usually the director is not the casting director too. The casting director works with the director. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a bad look for the first win at the Oscars in Best Casting to go to the director of the movie. That would have been very confusing, I think, for audiences. So I feel like next year, like this prize should go to a casting director, and I think it's going to. I'm very excited to talk about like what are the top films I'm looking at right now that I think will probably get nominated. And then I'll touch on, some other movies that might have a chance. This is kind of a lay of the land. Like, what might Best Casting look like in the months to come? I'm not, like, overly confident in my picks here. I'm not like, okay, these are going to be the 5 films that get nominated for Best Casting and wrap it up. It's April, guys. So we're just going to go through some titles that I think might be in contention for casting. And there's 2 or 3 of these I feel pretty good about. Like, as long as the movies are great, which I'm expecting, could probably get in. And then there are some other titles that, like, depending on the quality of the film, the rollouts, like how well audiences and critics respond to these movies, and seeing really what Best Casting is going to look like at the end of the day at the Oscars. Again, I hope it's not just giant ensembles, and that's all they're looking at. I'm hoping we get some films that have like 3 or 4 really well cast roles, and that's mainly it, and that can still get into Best Casting. It doesn't have to be the latest Wes Anderson movie, right? Like, it doesn't have to be 30 big name stars. It can be smaller ensembles, to be sure. So let's get started. My extremely early Oscar predictions for Best Casting. What do I have at number 1? What do I think has the best shots, as of this moment, to get that Best Casting Oscar nomination? I do think it's One Battle After Another, the latest film from writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson. You have Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role, and whenever he's, at the center of a movie, you can probably expect a really fantastic ensemble cast, right? And in this movie, which just had a trailer released a few days ago, we also have Benicio del Toro. We have Sean Penn. So 3 Oscar winners right there already. And then you also have Teyana Taylor, right? Who was so frickin' incredible in 1001 from a couple years ago. I'm so intrigued by her participation in this movie. Based on the trailers, it looks like she has a pretty substantial role. Like maybe she could be a Best Supporting Actress play or something. I'm excited about that. You also have Regina Hall, the great Regina Hall, right? Who I feel is underrated and that she is in this too. That's pretty cool. And you also have Alana Haim from Paul Thomas Anderson's last movie, Licorice Pizza. So, I mean, that's 6 people, 6 really, really talented actors who I'm aware of. There's, of course, many other names here I'm not that familiar with. But like those 6 people in One Battle After Another, I'm getting the sense it is going to work as an ensemble film. And so because that movie is probably, outside of a shocker, I'd say, getting into picture and director and maybe actor for DiCaprio, I feel like casting makes sense. Most of Anderson's movies, I feel like, would qualify for a Best Casting Oscar, going all the way back to Hard 8 and Boogie Nights. Like, the ensembles of his films are extraordinary, and it looks like One Battle After Another is going to be just as memorable. I feel pretty certain this is getting into Best Casting at the Oscars. Number 2 I have is Marty Supreme. Going beyond just Timothée Chalamet, who of course has been a fixture as of late, with movies nominated at the Oscars in Best Picture, and getting Best Actor nominations himself, like he just did for A Complete Unknown. Marty Supreme is coming out Christmas Day. You have Chalamet in the lead, and you have this very creative ensemble cast. I mean, I feel like when they're nominating Best Casting at the Oscars, they will look at the creativity of the casting. Like, did they do something original, something unexpected? And you look at the casting for Marty Supreme, and it's very interesting. You have Gwyneth Paltrow in a substantial role. You have Sandra Bernhard, Fran Drescher, Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, Abel Ferrara, Tyler the Creator, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. It's just like, it's like a weird blend of different actors, some famous for films and for television and different kinds of things, magic acts, like it's an interesting group of actors in Marty Supreme. So I feel like with that Christmas Day release, if the film is fantastic, I feel like with 5 slots, Marty Supreme is probably getting in. So those are the 2, as of this moment, I feel most confident about. I feel like those 2 get in. Outside of either movie just underperforming or something, I think they can get into casting. Now we get to a bunch of films that, it depends. It depends on a lot of factors. But my number 3 slot here for Best Casting goes to After the Hunt, the new film from Luca Guadagnino coming out later this year. I wouldn't say this one's a gigantic ensemble cast. There's like a few key roles, all played by wonderful actors, and as long as the movie's really good, I mean, maybe it doesn't get in, but I don't know. I'm getting the sense that After the Hunt can do it, You have Julia Roberts in the lead role. I'm so excited to see her in an Oscar caliber movie again. She plays a college professor, I'm pretty sure. You have Andrew Garfield and Io Adebari. I think she makes an accusation against him that he sexually assaulted her, and that's a big part of the story. You also have Michael Stuhlbarg and Chloe Sevigny. You have those 5 in this movie, and I'm like, I'm getting the sense After the Hunt will be an ensemble piece. It won't just be Roberts in the lead role and then a bunch of supporting roles that don't factor into the narrative very much. I'm not sure at this moment how big of an Oscar movie After the Hunt is going to be. Can it get into Picture Director? I don't know. You know, we had challengers and queer this last year for Luca Guadagnino show up with nothing on Oscar nominations morning. Is After the Hunt gonna go the same way? It's not very clear right now. I hope After the Hunt is an Oscar film. It can get into like Best Actress maybe for Roberts, maybe Best Picture. And if this movie's really well liked, Best Casting makes a lot of sense. Moving right along, I have questions about my next 2 films. 2 movies that I feel like could get into Best Casting, but I'm not entirely sure about the rules. Wicked for Good. Like, when I started thinking about this video, I wanted to put Wicked for Good at number 1. I was like, the casting of those 2 films is extraordinary. They did such a great job. But my question is, because Wicked for Good is the second of 2 films, will it even be eligible for Best Casting? Because technically, the casting was done for the first Wicked movie, which came out in 2024 when Best Casting wasn't a category yet. So that's kind of my question about that. Can it get into Best Casting being a follow-up film? If it can, then I think Wicked for Good is probably going to get into Best Casting, but I'm not entirely sure right now, so there's kind of an asterisk on that one. Like, I'm not sure, I'm not going to predict it in this video, but if I come to find out over the summer, early fall, that yes, Wicked for Good can be nominated for Best Casting, I feel like I will end up predicting that down the line. Same line of thinking with Avatar: Fire and Ash, the 3rd film in the Avatar franchise. Can that movie get into Best Casting, with it being the 3rd entry, where we've already cast many of these people way back in the 2009 film? I just, like, how are they going to deal with sequels where you have the same actors? Can those movies be eligible for Best Casting? Will it depend on like how many new actors are in the movie? If it's mostly the same faces from the previous installment, will it not be eligible? I'm not sure. Maybe every film that comes out in 2025 is eligible, regardless of whether it's a sequel or whatever. So that might be the case too. I don't know. I feel like if one of those two movies I just talked about could get into Best Casting, it's probably Wicked for Good over Avatar: Fire and Ash. I feel like that movie will be considered for a lot of categories, but Best Casting, not so much. Like, that was never a franchise that was really talked about in terms of getting acting nominations. You know, Zoe Saldana is incredible in that franchise, especially in the first movie. I guess casting is possible for Avatar: Fire and Ash. It is a December release. It's going to be fresh in voters' minds. But I don't know, I'm not seeing it right now. In terms of films I saw at the Sundance Film Festival, there's two movies I think could maybe be considered. One is Kiss of the Spider Woman, which I've talked about is absolutely going to be a Best Supporting Actress play for Jennifer Lopez. She is fantastic in that movie. And it's really an ensemble of three people. There's a few other actors in it, a few other speaking roles, but really it's three. So I wonder if that's big enough. You know, The Holdovers won Best Casting at BAFTA for 2023. And that's a movie, I mean, it's got a few people in it, but it's really like those three characters we leave the movie thinking about. So maybe three is enough. I hope it is. So I would keep Kiss of the Spider Woman in the conversation. The other one is Sorry Baby, which I do think is the best film I saw at Sundance. That's the one that has resonated with me the most, that I keep thinking about. I do think Sorry Baby, if it has a good rollout later this year, it's going to do well come award season, especially in Best Original Screenplay, I would say. But it has an excellent ensemble cast led by its director, Eva Victor. You have Naomi Ackie and Lucas Hedges doing phenomenal work in that film. You also have John Carroll Lynch, who is memorable. Like it's a film that's like interconnected short stories in a way. Like we bounce around in time and space and things. Eva Victor is really our centerpiece of that movie, but with each new segment, it seems, we have a really rich supporting performance throughout that movie. So I feel like Sorry Baby could be a best casting contender if enough people see it and love it. The rivals of Amziah King, which played at South by Southwest, I have heard amazing things about this movie. It's kind of Matthew McConaughey's comeback film. It's a period drama. Kurt Russell is in it. Cole Sprouse, Owen Teague, Tony Revolori, Rob Morgan. A really wonderful cast. I mean, there were some people giving it 5 stars on Letterboxd and saying it was frickin' amazing. So this is a movie that has been watched and really loved. I don't know what the rollout is going to be with this one necessarily, but I feel like with McConaughey in the lead role, and especially since we haven't seen him in a film in a long time, I feel like there's going to be lots of eyeballs on this one. I'm really intrigued by Kurt Russell being in it. I've talked about on the channel before, I think Kurt Russell is one of our best actors who's never received an Oscar nomination. I've been waiting for that, like maybe one of these years, he gives just a frickin' kick-ass supporting actor performance in something, and he gets in. That would fill my heart with joy. I would love that. I don't know how much of the movie Kurt Russell is in. Maybe it's just a scene or two, I'm not sure. But him being here intrigues me. And yeah, the cast looks pretty solid, so maybe this film could also be a casting contender. There's a film I failed to mention in my ridiculously early Oscar predictions video from a few weeks back, Sentimental Value, which I'm curious to see if this is going to the Cannes Film Festival. We will know very shortly. But this film stars Elle Fanning, Renata Reinsve, Corey Michael Smith, and Stellan Skarsgård, and it's from the Oscar-nominated director of The Worst Person in the World, which was one of the great films of 2021. So Sentimental Value, I feel like maybe I should have talked about that in my previous Oscar predictions video. This could be something. Like, I mean, if it's anywhere close to the quality of The Worst Person in the World, it's definitely possible. And with that ensemble cast, I am intrigued. Like, let's keep that one on the list. A film I did talk about in that predictions video is Hamnet, which has a pretty remarkable ensemble cast. Paul Mescal, Jessie Buckley, Emily Watson, Joe Alwyn, a bunch of kids who play substantial roles in the film, I believe. I feel like, you know, when it comes to best casting, if there are some really excellent child performances, like that might be a plus in getting into this category. And the fact that Hamnet is about real people, like Paul Mescal is playing William Shakespeare in that movie. So I feel like that might be an element that helps. Not all 5 nominees in best casting, I think, will be based on like real people all the time. But when we're thinking about the casting of a film, and we can point to real people and kind of compare, you know, the actor to the real person, that might help some Academy members, I think, when it comes to this category. So yeah, that'll be intriguing to me. I thought about including Hamnet in my predictions here, like being one of my 5 choices. I'm close. Like, I have it in like 6th or 7th place. Like, I came close to predicting it. It might well get in. And, you know, this was the moment. I could have, in my extremely early predictions, called it for Hamnets, but I don't know why. I'm just not going there, even though I do think, like, if this movie is really, really extraordinary, I think this might get into best casting. Another film I have hovering around 6th or 7th place is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Mia Goth, Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, Christoph Waltz, Charles Dance, David Bradley, just so many wonderful actors, some great character actors in that. Andrew Garfield, who I've talked about earlier in this video, I think was going to play the monster. Now it's Jacob Elordi, which, I mean, that kind of makes sense. I mean, he's super tall, and he's probably going to do really well with that. Mia Goth, like the lead female, I'm assuming, in that movie. That's really inspired casting. Mia Goth in a Frankenstein movie. I mean, come on. And then Oscar Isaac as Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Like, I don't know. Like, again, I think it depends on if this movie is really, really great. If it's just mid, if it's you know, it's good, but it's not great, maybe it doesn't become an Oscar movie, really. I also wonder, in that first year of Best Casting, are they going to nominate a horror film? A Frankenstein movie? I don't know. Like, I'm not feeling it. Like, I feel like it might be close, it might be considered, but it ultimately doesn't get the nomination. But if Frankenstein gets into Best Casting, that would be frickin' awesome. And then Michael, which I did not talk about in that previous video, because I've been hearing rumblings that they're having problems behind the scenes, like they're doing reshoots and stuff, that it might not come out in 2025. But what if it does? Like, what if Michael is ready by the end of the year? If it does come out by December, I feel like Michael is going to be a shoo-in for Best Casting. You have Coleman Domingo, Nia Long, Miles Teller, Kat Graham as Diana Ross, Derek Luke as Johnny Cochran, Jafar Jackson as Michael Jackson. The real life of it all is going to help. And I do think, like, Best Casting, we're going to see this first year 1 or 2 movies, at least, that have a bunch of actors playing real life figures. And if Michael comes out by December, everybody loves it, it's a box office hits, I feel like this gets into Best Casting, but we don't know yet. Is it coming out this year? It might be 2026. So we'll know more in the months to come. I mean, right now I'm putting it on the list. It's definitely high up there. I might predict it come October, November, when I do my next casting predictions video. Right now, I feel pretty good about it. It's definitely in contention. But speaking of films based on real people, that takes us to my number 4 choice. My number 4 prediction of a film I'm feeling pretty good is going to be nominated for Best Casting, and that's Deliver Me From Nowhere, the new Bruce Springsteen biopic, where Jeremy Allen White plays Springsteen, and this is a complete unknown situation in that if Best Casting had been introduced this year, a complete unknown would have been nominated. I would say I'm 100%. That would have gotten into Best Casting for sure. And so Deliver Me From Nowhere, you have not only Jeremy Allen White, who's such a fantastic actor, playing Bruce Springsteen, but you also have Paul Walter Hauser. You have Stephen Graham, who was so frickin' amazing on Adolescence. You have David Krumholtz. You have Gabby Hoffman. You have Jeremy Strong, Grace Gummer, Mark Maron. The list goes on and on. The ensemble cast to Deliver Me From Nowhere is nothing to sneeze at. It's really powerful, so many wonderful actors in that. The film's opening later this year. It's a biopic. If it's well liked or loved, people really go for that film. It plays like a complete unknown. Deliver Me From Nowhere, I do think, is getting into Best Casting. And finally, that takes me to the final slots. What do I think this early on can get into the Best Casting category at the Oscars? I have 2 final movies to talk about. Both of these final 2 movies have gigantic, massive ensemble casts. And I don't know, I'm getting the sense, I feel like one of the nominations this first year of Best Casting at the Oscars will go to a movie that's just got a ton of people in it, Just a ton of talented, mostly known actors in a variety of roles. And I've been going back and forth all morning. Which one of these films do I think could do it? The first one to talk about is Wes Anderson's latest film, The Phoenician Scheme, which just had a trailer released and has, as expected for a Wes Anderson movie, just the most amazing ensemble of actors you have in this movie. Just to name a few: Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Cera, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Hope Davis, Riz Ahmed, Jeffrey Wright, Benicio del Toro again. Benicio del Toro working with both Andersons, Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson. That's kind of cool. And so yeah, the Phoenician Scheme, I feel like has to go on the list. Any new Wes Anderson movie, best casting seems like a shoo-in. My question with this is that it's opening like at the end of May, right? End of May, early June, around there. And his last two movies did not do well at the Oscars, right? The French Dispatch and Asteroid City. They weren't really Oscar movies. And I'm doubtful right now. I am pretty doubtful that a film could, let's say, just not play a big role all award season, but it gets into best casting at the Oscars and, let's say, nothing else. Like the Phoenician Scheme. It's good, not great. People like it. It's not one of his best. And like it doesn't get into picture or director, any of the acting categories, below the line, like technical stuff, nothing. But like it slips into best casting at the Oscars. I don't see that happening for a movie. I think you're going to have to be strong in other categories, like picture, get into one or two acting categories to get into casting. I might be proven wrong there, I'm not sure. But I think the Phoenician Scheme is going to have to fare better come awards time than Wes Anderson's last two movies. So if it can do that, then I'll definitely have this high on the list. But right now, I am not going with the Phoenician Scheme to get an Oscar nomination for Best Casting. Right now, my fifth and final prediction to get into Best Casting at the Oscars is Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. I think if there's one huge ensemble film that can get into this category, that one makes more sense to me than the Phoenician Scheme. I mean, the cast is just as impressive. You have so many amazing actors in the upcoming third Knives Out movie. You have Daniel Craig, of course. He's our one mainstay, the guy who's been in parts 1 and 2. But then listen to who is in the upcoming Knives Out movie. Listen to this roster of actors. Holy shit. We have Josh Brolin, Kaylee Spaney, Jeremy Renner, Mila Kunis, Andrew Scott, Thomas Hayden Church, Kerry Washington, Daryl McCormick, Josh O'Connor, and Glenn Close. Wow, that is a cast. Holy cow. I know the casts for the first two movies were also amazing. This is the best one, I think. This is an absolutely extraordinary list of great actors, and I'm curious to see like what the roles are, how they're all cast in this movie. I'm really intrigued by Glenn Close. I'm always looking for the next Glenn Close Oscar nomination. Like maybe her role in the third Knives Out movie is substantial enough, is memorable enough that she can get into Best Supporting Actress. We shall see. I know earlier in this video, I talked about like, could Wicked for Good get into Best Casting, Avatar, Fire and Ash, since they're sequels? I mean, the only person who is repeated in the third Knives Out movie is Daniel Craig. It's not like half of the cast, is just coming from a previous movie. It's just one person. So I feel like this will be eligible, right? That wouldn't feel right if you just have one actor repeating a role into a follow-up movie. Oh, sorry, ineligible. That wouldn't make sense to me. So again, I don't know what all the rules are. As long as Wake Up Dead Man is eligible, I do think, especially with it coming out in November, I think that's going to get an Oscar nomination for Best Casting, especially if it's as good or better than the other two. If people really love this third installment, if it can get nominated in other categories at the Oscars, like screenplay, maybe supporting actress for Close or something, I do think best casting is going to happen. So again, this is extremely early. We haven't seen very much. A lot can still happen in the months to come. But as of this moment, here are my extremely early Oscar predictions for Best Casting. We have Cassandra Koulakundis for One Battle After Another, Jennifer Venditti for Marty Supreme, Jessica Romaine for After the Hunts, Francine Maisler for Deliver Me From Nowhere, and Brett Howe and Mary Verneau for Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below what are your extremely early Oscar predictions for Best Casting, and I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.